Shakespeare's Sonnet 87 is a popular sonnet. It's one that has endured for centuries as a favorite. Now it's a sad sonnet. It's a farewell poem to a beloved someone, and the sonnet has proved very portable and applicable in different kinds of contexts, which I think partly explains why it's so popular. Now we'll read this sonnet, and then I'll go through a 5-step process of close readings. And the steps are: first, place in context, observe words, enjoy impressions, mark meter, and survey structure. Now usually my videos hit all 5 of these steps in different order, but we're going to go in order this time just to show you how this method can be applied to poems as a method of close reading. So we'll read the sonnet. Farewell, thou art too dear for my possessing, and like enough thou know'st thy estimate. The charter of thy worth gives thee releasing. My bonds in thee are all determinate. For how do I hold thee but by thy granting? And for that riches, where is my deserving? The cause of this fair gift in me is wanting, and so my patent back again is swerving. Thyself thou gav'st, thy own worth then not knowing, or me, to whom thou gav'st it, else mistaking. So thy great gift, upon misprison growing, comes home again, on better judgment making. Thus have I had thee as a dream doth flatter, in sleep a king, but waking no such matter. So let's begin by placing this in context, and we'll remember that placing a poem in context involves more than just considering the historical context or the biographical context. There are other contexts, and one that's really important for this poem, for all the sonnets, is the literary context. This poem is not in isolation, and it's in conversation with other sonnets. We saw in sonnets 71, 73, and 74 this theme of death, of departure, emerging within the sequence. Now also, if you'll read Sonnet 49, the very end of the couplet talks about the beloved's departure from the speaker. Now, in this poem, Sonnet 87, the speaker is the one departing from the beloved. And this time he's taking leave on his own accord. Now, one thing we might do, just observing the words here, is to notice how the language is somewhat legal, and we've seen this in other sonnets as well. Farewell, he says, thou art too dear for my possessing, which has a legal connotation, or at least it can, of rightful ownership. Second line, and like enough thou know'st thy estimate, or worth. The charter of thy worth, charter being a royal patent, the charter of thy worth gives thee releasing. Free from legal obligation, you're released from a legal obligation there. My bonds in thee are all determinate. Bonds here are terms of obligation, and determinate means, in Shakespeare's day, expiration. So whatever right the speaker had to the beloved's love has now expired, he's saying. That's the first quatrain, just observing some of the legal language. For how do I hold thee but thy granting? How do I hold or love you unless you grant it or allow it? And for that riches, where is my deserving? The cause of this fair gift in me is wanting. The cause, or the merit, or reason. Cause could mean reason, but also in Shakespeare's day, merit is another word for cause as well. So the merit, or again, kind of a legal right of this fair gift in me is wanting or lacking. And so my patent back again is swerving. So this is getting complex here, but patent is like, a charter or a legal document which says that you have the right to sell goods. And swerving means to return again. So the right that the speaker's right is returning back to him, or the speaker's patent is returning back, and the patent is, in a sense, his love, partly his love. Thyself thou gav'st, thy own worth then not knowing, or me to whom thou gav'st it else mistaking. So he's still talking about how the patent or the gift is returning. Thyself thou gavest, thy own worth, then not knowing. What's happened here? Well, they're no longer friends, or they're breaking up. Something's happening. He's departing because the friend either didn't know how popular or successful he or she would be when they became friends or entered into some kind of relationship. Either that, or the beloved mistook the speaker of the poem to have more worth than the speaker had. So, because of that, one of those reasons, thy great gift, upon misprison growing, comes home again, which is what is meant by swerving, to come home again. Thus have I had thee, as a dream doth flatter, in sleep a king, but waking no such matter. So this is one method to just observe the language and the words here in this sonnet. A lot of legal language, and sometimes Shakespeare will take his metaphors from court or from financial settings. Next, let's enjoy impressions. Now, impressions, again, are any kind of effect that the poem has upon you. One of the functions of literary criticism is to determine how a poem will have enduring value, or why it has had enduring value. And just thinking about why this poem has been so popular, part of it lies in its ambiguity. This is something that Helen Vendler said as well. I have her book, The Art of Shakespeare Sonnets, which is really good, when she writes, "The universal appeal of this much anthologized sonnet springs from its very lack of particular detail. There are no sexually precise pronouns, no references to a new sexual or affectionate or poetic rival, and because of the modern persistence of most of its legal vocabulary, no estranging historical allusions. The idealization consequent to love has made every lover feel that the beloved is too dear for possessing." So you can think about how this sonnet can be read in a variety of contexts, not just romantic. You can imagine a friend speaking this to another friend. You can imagine a father to his daughter. You can imagine a lover breaking up, of course. There are a variety of contexts in which this sonnet might work. And that's part of what the impression leaves with us. It's something that is portable. The sonnet is something that we can take and appropriate within our own context. And in a way, it gives us room. The sonnet actually gives a lot of room for us to bring our own experiences into it. And so I think that's partly why it's lasted for so long. Now moving on, let's mark the meter here. You might say, well, what's there to say? This is iambic pentameter. Each line has 10 syllables, 5 of them stressed in alternating patterns of unstressed followed by stressed. But there's also something going on here that happened in Sonnet 20, and that is feminine rhymes, or double rhymes, in which 2 syllables rhyme instead of just 1. Not only that, but the first of the rhymed syllables is stressed. The second is weak, unstressed. It falls away. Possessing, releasing. Estimate and determinate are masculine rhymes, but the rest are feminine. And what's the effect of that? Well, part of it is that the rhyme culminates there. The rhyme really has its effect in the stressed syllable, but then it dies away in the weak syllable, which gives it a kind of lingering effect. So that's something to note about how the meter is, in a way, representing and enacting the farewell, and rather the speaker's reluctance to say farewell. Finally, for the 5th step, we'll survey the structure. Now, we know that Shakespearean sonnets are composed of 3 quatrains, which are 3 groups of 4 lines, with the typical rhyme scheme, concluding with a couplet. That's the general structure. But when surveying structure, we might also look at language structures. So just to apply that here to these last 2 lines, we'll see how Shakespeare uses assonance and repetition, schematic or structural devices, to really drive home the point in this couplet. Thus have I had thee, as a dream doth flatter. Now notice what the sounds are doing in this line here. Thus have I had thee, as a dream doth flatter. Not only are these 2 words, which are related through the simile, dream describes thee, but it's also enacted through that repetition of the E sound. And we also have the same thing going on here. In sleep, a king, but waking, no such matter. So we have the repetition of the sounds, but also basically a repetition of the word. Aching, a king, which is also a pun, which chimes with waking, which puts those two senses in proximity with each other. So you see how, using these 5 steps allows you to see not just what the poem is saying, but also how Shakespeare uses language to say it, and how in that poetry is a very careful and intricate art. I hope you enjoyed this analysis, a little bit longer than what I usually do for the Shakespeare sonnets, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of information on how to apply, on how to do close readings on your own to a variety of different poems. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Until next time.